Morning, Birds fans. The start of what should be a very interesting week for the Philadelphia Eagles. As it plays itself out, we'll determine our opinion as to whether it's a successful week for the Philadelphia Eagles. But it sure as hell is going to be interesting. You got your MAGA Mac guys, John McMullen and Jody McDonald. We got 2 good hours coming your way this day, all week. We got 2 of our Eagle faves joining us, Paul Domowitch and Ed Kratz, over the course of the next 2 hours. So stay streamed in right here on Birds 365. And since it's such a big week, you might as well go ahead and hit the like button. If you're going to be here this week with us, if you're going to be a Mac and Mac guy, then give us a little love and hit the...
yeah, way to go, Jody. Right off the bat.
First things first, let me get that out of the way. Kind of like Darius Slay. First things first for us is the fact that Diana Rossini is a very good reporter for ESPN. She's not really one of the news breaking, information gathering gals, but every once in a while she gets a tidbit.
Information broker. Can I jump in?
Yes,
information broker.
That's the phrase that you like to use, and I like too. It does. It fits the detail of the job. That's
Mike Sealski. I have to give him credit every time. I stole it from Mike.
Sealski uses the information broker phrase. It is a good one. That's not usually what Diana does. She's a very good reporter, but that's not her main task in life. But damn if she doesn't break something at what time. You and I wrap up the show. I'm getting ready to get the dog out for a little bit of a walk. And sure enough, I got a text from McMullen, a copy of the tweet from Diana Rossini. What time was that, J-Mac?
I think it was 10:06. I think it might have been 10:05, but it was
somewhere thereabouts after you and I wrapped up the show at 10:01. That the Eagles have granted permission to Darius Slay to seek a trade if he so desires, but they will continue to work to keep him as a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. There's a lot to unpack there. Number one, thanks for breaking it at 10:05. You couldn't do it at 9:55, Diana? Timing is everything in life. But the fact that this information got out, and the Eagles, because Darius Slay went on his podcast over the weekend and said, listen to me, I did not request a trade. This was not a request from the Darius Slay camp. So don't think I'm trying to force my hand and force my way out of Philadelphia. So this was an Eagle-generated piece of information that they probably had a couple of conversations with Darius about doing a contract extension, one that they can certainly reduce his very large cap number this year and add some years. And they're not matching up on those added years and what the cost to them would be. Darius, he wants to stay an Eagle because he wants to get more years at big bucks, and the Eagles are hoping for more years at less bucks, and those two things are not matching up. So that's why the Eagles did what they did. What do you think their thought process is behind letting this information get out?
They want Darius to see the market, and I think it's a calculated gamble of, he's 32 years old. Slay's a New Year's baby, so he's not going to turn 33 to January 1st of next year. But so, we know this league and over 30 players, and he had a great first half, and he wasn't quite as good as in the second half. And all of a sudden you start thinking about moving forward in years, because we all knew they had to do something with the contract. The salary cap number is just untenable. 26 million, over 26 million. So you knew something had to be done. And the obvious answer was extension. 16, 17 million dollars a year is what Slay was under average annual value. So to me, it's a clear indication the Eagles don't want to pay that moving forward, and say, all right, if you think we're being hardline, go out and find something else, Drew Rosenhaus. And if you find something else, things obviously change. So I think it's a calculated gamble, but boy, man, I got to tell you, if you lose Darius Slay and James Bradberry, whew, that's something. And we talked about the 5 stages of grief a lot after the Super Bowl. I see people are starting to pick up on it. I saw a couple columns. I've been talking about this from day one. The most disappointing part of the Super Bowl is you're going to lose some big time players. and even I didn't think you were going to lose both cornerbacks. Well, that's in play now. I still think Slay's going to be back because this league works and they just don't like older players. So I don't know how many teams are going to be willing to go at the number, but it only takes one. We saw Miami Dolphins. It only takes with Jalen Ramsey's not as old, but some people have said he's declining. He's not what he once was and all this. There's always one. Not always, but typically one. Calculated gamble here from the Eagles.
And they wanted to control the narrative because they could have just said to Slay's agent, listen, we're having trouble coming up with a number here. You've thrown a couple, we've thrown a couple. Doesn't look like we've got a negotiable mid-ground here. So we might need to get a third party involved here to kind of decide who's closer to what Darius' market should be. Why don't we give you permission to go out and seek a trade, and you can come back with us as to what the offers have been, and then we'll weigh it and we'll potentially trade you. They could have done this all behind closed doors, and for some reason it gets leaked out, and I got to believe it was because, and sorry for you Slay fans and to Big Play himself, he's an open book. He's going to go on that podcast. He's going to tell the world whatever the hell he wants to, anytime he wants to. So they said, well, why don't we get the word out there first? Because if we give him permission and say, yeah, we're going to keep this between ourselves, we don't trust him to keep it between themselves. He's going to go on a podcast and tell the world, oh, the Eagles are giving me permission to grant the trade. The Eagles came to me. Yeah, this is a narrative control deal. And I don't know that it's advantageous for them. We'll see how it plays itself out, but I don't really blame the Eagles for doing what they did.
No, I mean, you got to, I always say the most difficult part of building a good team, a good roster, a good organization is being honest with yourself. So if you do feel he's not going to be the same player in a year or two, you got to be honest about that. One of the things Howie has been honest in his own way and saying, he's been too loyal in the past. And you could have the same conversations about Fletcher Cox and, Brandon Graham's a little bit different because Brandon took $6 million to come back. All right, you can live with that. Even if you're wrong, and I don't think you're going to be wrong because he played at a high level. There's no indication that at least at a reduced role that he's in, that he's not going to continue to be effective. But it's possible at his age, but the contract is not going to hurt you all that much. If you sign 2-3 year extension, $17 million per year, well, that could hurt you down the road. So you got to be honest with yourself. To me, this seems like the Eagles are saying, all right, this is a declining player. I hate to say that to Slay, but that. And I know he doesn't like it because I saw him clapping back against a fan. And in the world of social media, guys are probably taking that stuff too seriously. Forget about what the fans say. Forget about even what I say, what Jody Mack says. The Eagles are saying something by going down this route. Because they, Slay's for people that don't realize, he was brought to tears when that team voted him as a captain. He likes this organization. He likes this team. He realizes the situation he was in. If you go up to him and say, I'll give you a slight bump or keep it the same, I think he'd say, all right, no problems. I think what the Eagles are saying, well, no, it's possible he wants a raise. Everybody wants as much money as possible.
Sure.
But I don't know. That's how I take it. How do you take it, Jody?
I take it that you got a good grasp on it. I'll give you my football evaluation. I'm not Howie Roseman, but we all play Howie Roseman from time to time. I don't think he's worth what he's making these days. And sometimes these things can turn on a dime, that it should never be about a game or a handful of games. But you said it yourself. We're talking about a half season last year. There was a Darius Slay half one, Darius Slay half two. And the half two wasn't near as good as the half one. And when you're talking about a half a season, that's more than just, hey, had a bad game, had a bad couple weeks, had a bad month. No, he had a bad half season. And I would say about 90% of the time that signifies there's going to be a drop-off coming, that this isn't going to all of a sudden turn itself around, do a 180, and go right back to playing at the level that would mandate the money that he's getting right now, which is top of the market, top cornerback money. He didn't play like a top cornerback in the NFL in the second half of the season. So I think those Eagles within their right, if they're being true to themselves, as Johnny Mac correctly pointed out, probably more important than anything else, be true to yourselves in your evaluations. He's probably not worth it. So, again, I got no problem with what the Eagles did. The other cornerback slot, again, information coming out could on this one, it could have been from either side. The Slate thing unquestionably was from the Eagles. That when James Bradberry hits the market coming up in less than 4 hours from now, the Eagles hope that he will come back to them with whatever his top offer is, whatever he's considering taking, and giving them a chance to evaluate it and maybe potentially match. If he wants to continue to be an Eagle, and he's on record and says, yeah, that'd be good for him. He wants to get paid, number one. That's the priority. But if he's got choices as to who's going to pay him, the Eagles are definitely someone he wants to give a chance to consider. The Eagles said, we hope you come back to us and give us a chance to match. Anytime you do that, that's a little risky, because you are basically telling the player, yeah, we're gonna be right there at the top of the market, whatever your value is, and maybe you stretch a little bit. There's ways that you can find out actually what the numbers are. Howie's very well connected, but they're not going to be able to flat out lie. But there are ways you can create a way to drive a number up. It's a risky proposition, but if Slay's situation is what Slay's situation is, the retention of Bradberry becomes that much more important. So again, I understand why the Eagles, if they were the ones who got this information out there and it's accurate, you got to do what you got to do. I don't think that this was their preferred way of getting it done, but they really do want to keep Bradberry, and I think they should, because there was no drop-off in his second half performance the way there was with Slay.
Yeah, I take that as sort of, I think the Eagles do that with everybody. We love you, because Howie doesn't like to close doors. It doesn't make sense to close doors. So you say, we love you. Please come back when you get your deal in place, if you get a deal, and please give us an opportunity to match. And then the Eagles get the deal, make the decision. I think that was always what's going to happen with James Bradberry. Tell me what the market is. I put the players in 3 categories. Tell me what the market is. If it's 12, 13 million, I think the Eagles will try to bring him back. If it's 15, 16, 17 million, I don't think they'll try to bring him back. I think it's the same as it was. Now you just have James going on the radio and saying, hey, they want an opportunity to match. I think that was always. I think the Eagles say that to Miles Sanders. They say that to T.J. Edwards and Marcus Epps, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, everybody. But there's certain guys they want to bring back. C.J. probably topping the list. And I'm not saying they don't want to bring back Bradberry. But in other words, what I'm saying is it hasn't changed. Now, if the market is less than what we all think it's going to be, and I was texting with the ex-GM yesterday, and he's still thinks he's gone, and most people I've talked to think he's gone. But if it's not what we think it's going to be, then the Eagles leave that door open, and there's an opportunity. But I don't think they're going to replace Slay's $17 million with Bradberry's $17 million. In other words, I don't think the Slay conversation has much to do with the Bradberry conversation, if that makes sense. I think it's, so what might they bump it up from 12 to 13 if they lose Slay, if they trade Slay? Yeah. But if you're asking me, because it doesn't make sense from a contract standpoint with the dead money to trade Slay, to cut Slay. People are saying, just cut Slay. You can't cut Slay. It all accelerates onto the cap. That's the whole problem. So something always had to be done with Slay, and all they're doing is wrangling over the extension. So if you're asking me for an early prediction, and I'm sure people, when it won't come to fruition, I still expect Slay to be here in the end. and Bradberry to get a better deal elsewhere. I don't think much has changed.
But do you expect Slay to be here under a renegotiated contract?
Oh yeah, they have to. They're not paying that cap number of $26 million. So really, it's just benign. They're saying to Drew Rosenhaus, who's Darius's agent, look, if you think we're lowballing you, go out and see if we're lowballing you. And, he's looking for the outlier. He's looking for the team willing to pay a 32 that's going to be 33 on January 1st of next year, cornerback, multiple years at $17, $18 million. They're saying, go out and find that. Prove that to us. And if they do, then the Eagles got a whole bigger problem. But they're, Howie, as you mentioned, is pretty plugged in. He knows more than we do. He usually, when he does this kind of stuff, has a good feeling for what the market is.
But here's where the Eagles are in a bad situation with Slay, the way that I read it. He's still got the leverage. Slay still got the leverage. Because if they believe, like John McMullen just believes, they can't bring him back at that number next year. It's just too much. It's going to be a cap crush killer, and they got to sign these free agents. The next 48 hours is going to be huge as they're trying to get deals done with their own players who become free agents and or anybody else. If he just sits there and goes, all right, well, I'll play for what I'm scheduled to play for next year, then what do the Eagles do? If he says, here, you want to do an extension, we'll do an extension. Here's my bottom line. I'm not going less than this. Either we get this extension done at this number, or I'll just show up for camp. I'll be there. I'm a captain. I'm ready to play for the Eagles one more year in 2023. Then what does Howie do?
Yeah, well, then you're playing a game of chicken.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. Point... And oh, by the way, Darius has got stronger footing where he's playing chicken from than Howie Roseman does.
Yeah, well, leverage has been the theme the entire season. I talked about it. Why are there no extensions during the season? Howie always does extensions during the season, blah, blah, blah. I said pretty consistently that he has no leverage because everybody's having a career season. Slay is not. Slay had a good season for Slay, but not a career season. But he's got different types of leverage.
Yes.
You're right. I mean, he's got some leverage, but also... And if you want to go back to Jason Kelsey, and it probably too involved of a story, when it all started as year-to-year retirement, it didn't start as a year-to-year retirement. What really happened was he was about to enter the final year of his contract. All the guaranteed money was done, and he was an older player who wanted some more than 1 year, didn't want to be a lame duck. That's where Slay is. A little bit different, but same. He doesn't want to be a lame duck. Players only are lame ducks for one of two reasons. They have to be, or they're gambling on themselves, like James Bradberry did and won this year, the so-called prove it deal. Slay's not at that point in his career. So the leverage the Eagles has is he wants more security. He wants more than 1 year. But yeah, if you were saying who's got more leverage, I would say Slay has more leverage.
Yeah, the Eagles have work to do and I'm not sure. It was, I guess, a necessary evil that they had to grant him the ability to go out and check what his value would be on his open market. It's obligatory that the agents got to do that. But, yeah, I think that he's just going to sit tight and tell the Eagles, well, but I'm under contract, and I guess we'll talk next year because you guys aren't willing to talk in the dollar figures that I'm looking for. Yeah, this one could go back and forth and get a little ugly at some point. Speaking of ugly, now see, that's just not right. Why would I do that to my guy?
That's
Damo?
me. Come on.
That's just flat out wrong. Shame
like
on you, McDonald.
Damo's like a Hollywood star compared to us.
You got that right. He is ready to join us next from the 33rdteam.com and his stat package on JAKIBSports.com during the season is a must-read for every Eagle fan every week. And when he joins us, the handsome, the dapper Paul Domwich